Okay, we're going to continue solving quadratic functions, but today we're going to use square roots, which is really nice and fast when we're finding our solution. Now remember, our solution to a quadratic function is the x-intercepts. And sometimes there's 2, sometimes there's 1, and sometimes there's none. You can also solve quadratic in the form of x squared equals k by finding the square root of each side. For example, the solutions of x squared equals 81 will include plus or minus the square root of 81. So the solution to this would be plus or minus 9, which means the solution for this one would be 9 and negative 9. And we can represent that as plus minus 9. So that would also find out, like if our equation was x squared equals 16, we know that by square rooting both sides, I can see that x equals the square root on both the positive and negative of the square root of 16. So my solutions to this quadratic functions would be positive 4 and negative 4. So what if we have a c term, like for instance, 3x squared minus 75 equals 0, and we got to our 0, which is good. We can go ahead and add 75 to both sides, and I end up with 3x squared equals 75. Divide both sides by 3, and I end up with x squared equals 25. And so my solution would be to square root both sides, and I'll find out that x equals plus or minus the square root of 25. So my solutions for this is 5 and negative 5. Nice and quick. So we can actually do that with all kinds of equations, and it might not even be a nice number, not even a nice square root. So for instance, let's say it is 2x squared minus 15 equals 0. I can add 15 to both sides and end up with 2x squared equals 15. I divide both sides by 2 and end up with x squared equals 7.5, but I want to square root those. So I can end up with the square root of 7.5 is plus or minus 2.738612788, and keeps going. So my solutions, or my x-intercepts for this one, I have 2 of them in this case, and it's plus positive 2.739 and negative 2.739. Why don't you give it a try? What are the solutions of each equation? Now keep in mind it could be one solution, 2 solutions, no solution. Press pause and try it out. All right, let's see how you did on these ones. For a term, I end up with positive 6 and negative 6 using the square root of 36. The second one, the B one, a little bit more interesting. By subtracting 15, I end up with a negative on the right side, and when I divided by 3, I still ended up with a negative. So when I was doing square root, I was finding the plus and minus square root of negative 5, which is not a real number, and you guys will tend to that another day. But that brings us up to no solution. That does put us somewhere, but in this case, there is no solution that we can find on this one. For the C one, another interesting one, it didn't equal 0 at the end, so I continued to do the process here by subtracting 16 from both sides, which zeroes out the right side, and dividing by 4 and square rooting, I end up with one answer, which is 0. So my solution for the C is 0. All right, keep practicing these things. It's getting down to the square root, which is nice and quick. I hope it helps out. Excellent. I'm going to go and balance on my kneecaps until my tongue goes numb.